Well, let's move on to our next segment, and that would be the spotlight. And again, I am delighted that we have Tal Hassan from Israel. And Tal Hassan is the developer of the Multilingual TTS Engine. And I know a lot of our readers and listeners have been using that, and a lot of them swear by it. Tal, how about you tell us how you got started about this app, the Multilingual TTS Engine? What led you to doing this? Do you know of any blind people, or you just generally wanted to develop a TTS engine and all of that? Because nowadays, we have fewer and fewer TTS engines. Is not like what we used to have years back when we had so many of those things. And frankly, it was so nice to see another TTS engine coming to us on Android, a space that is kind of getting emptier and emptier. So talk to us about the history of the multilingual TTS engine.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. So basically, I'm in the field of assistive technology in general for a few years. I've done it as volunteering for a lot of times. And in the last couple of years, I've established a company here in Israel that is doing custom assistive technology projects for people usually with extreme disabilities or a combination of disabilities. So people that, for example, are both blind and have problems moving their arms, for example. So some of the assistive technology solutions which are relevant for blind people requires using hands. And on the other hand, other solutions that are for people that having problems moving their hands sometimes has, audible or visual feedback. So in a lot of these cases, we need to combine between existing solutions and sometimes develop custom solutions. And by this, working with our clients in the field, combining a lot of different solutions, we ran into the problem of really using either talkback or select to speak and other accessibility services while you are speaking more than one language. Because in Israel, the audience in Israel is quite varied. So we have a lot of people obviously speaking Hebrew, but also English and Spanish and Russian and Arabic, obviously, and a lot of different languages. So we started to develop it to our clients, and when we saw that we are using it more and more, we decided to release it as a generic multilingual TTS engine for Android. So this is kind of the background of how we got to develop the multilingual TTS. Hope that it answered the question. If there are more specific questions, I would love to answer.
That's beautiful. So tell us, were there any challenges you ran into when you are developing this app? I know sometimes people say, hey, developing for Android could be a little bit hard, or especially for people with vision loss, or, those of us who are blind, oh, we're having difficulty because it's something that takes so much time and all of that. Did you guys ran into any problems or, unsurmountable challenges that were just beyond whatever? But I mean, you're here, but did you run into any problems of this nature?
I think the main problem that probably most of Android developers would speak to is the fact that there are a lot of different devices. And when you're developing something which is really to the core of the operating system, like a text-to-speech engine, there are things that behaves very differently between different devices and different Android versions. So this is one of the main challenges that we faced. I think this is also one of the things that we are striving to improve as we go, and we probably are not doing. You can never be, 100% accurate or 100% good in each and every device. So we are still having more things that we need to improve, and we are working on it. But I guess this is one challenge. The other thing is that we really try to improve the algorithm that detect the languages, because one of the things that we ran into with our clients is that we saw not a lot of, but we saw some other solutions out there that can switch languages, but we identified two main problems that we had with our users, with our clients. The first one is that the accuracy is sometimes not that good, especially when it comes to languages which are close to each other. For example, distinguishing between, Spanish and Italian, especially in short sentences, is something that can be hard. And the second thing is really that some of these solutions weren't working properly with the short text. So the other challenge was really to work on the algorithm of the language detection and make sure that it's able to run on a device, and also on low-cost devices. We really tried, like, the first devices that we are developing for are devices which are really low cost, with a low amount of memory and CPU, because we try to make it accessible for as much people as we can. And I think this is still also the area that we are struggling with, and work how to further improve, because it runs quite a sophisticated algorithm on simple devices, and we didn't want to get into, forcing people to have constant internet connections for this or anything. We wanted it to run locally, to work fast and cheap for the users. These are the main challenges that we are facing.
So presumably, this works with things like TalkBack or any apps that use text to speech. Were you making an app for this to work with, like a self-voicing app, or is this a TTS to use with any other app, or have you done both?
So
Because
it's
I only tend to read stuff in English mostly, so I haven't tried it.
Gotcha. So it's a great question. We developed it as just yet another text-to-speech engine for Android, so you can use it in any app. You can set it as the default text-to-speech engine of your Android device. If you are working with any e-reader, then you can set Multilingual TTS as the text-to-speech engine that you can use. The app itself, when you download it and install it, is basically just a few screens to get to work on the settings of the app, and try a few things if you want. But it's a generic text-to-speech engine for Android.
That's great, because it's really flexible. You can use it anywhere you want.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. And I like that with Android, because you can't do that, for example, with the iPhone.
Yeah, true.
It's something that's really lovely about Android. It's so much more flexible, isn't it?
I agree.
There's one part that you touched on earlier on, Tal, that I'm really excited about, and it has to do with the offline access, because I think one of the earlier problems, or some of the complaints that I was hearing about this, was that one needed internet access. But I'm glad that you have mentioned that you guys are prioritizing offline usage. I think because that is good, because not many people would have internet access all the time. And, if one happens to be in an area with a bad connectivity, then one is tossed if one has made that to be their default. So it's a scenario that we see happening with blind people now and then, with certain TTS engines that may rely on checking things on the internet, and therefore leaves one hanging in nowhere when there's no internet connectivity. So I'm glad you guys are working on that, or have worked on that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, it's already working this way. So you don't need any internet connection once you download it and install the app. There is one, disadvantage that we are working to improve as well, but the app is taking quite space on the device. Usually something that you are able to run with. We didn't have any major issues with it, but obviously if you are using internet connection and you are storing all the logic in a different place, you can have an app in a smaller size. But we decided it's better to have the bigger size and obviously improve it as we go, but avoid any internet connection. And indeed, this is the use case now. Obviously, because it's a multilingual TTS and the user can decide which text-to-speech engine to use for each language, if you choose to use a network voice, then it will require internet connection, but this is because of the underlying text-to-speech engine. But we require no internet connection once you are working with it.
So have you made voices, or does it use other people's voices and just change language when the language changes? Because as I say, I've never tried it, so
Yeah.
I know nothing. And maybe some of the listeners don't know either. So
Yeah,
hopefully,
yeah, maybe I'll give a brief. So basically, the multilingual TTS is you can look at it as a certain orchestrator or a distributor. You can define in the settings what languages you are speaking, and then for each and every language, choose your preferred text-to-speech engine, um, and then also your preferred speed and tone, etc. And then the multilingual TTS is going to identify for each and every piece of text what is the right language and use the underlying text-to-speech engine that you choose. In parallel, we also developed a few text-to-speech engines. The only one that is currently still available in Android is a Hebrew text-to-speech engine, but that's a separate app. Yeah, I hope that it answers the question.
so if I used it, it would for English use the voices I've already got, would it? Is that how that would
Exactly.
work? Yeah.
Exactly. And if you are speaking, if you're using only English, then obviously you have no real use for the multilingual TTS.
No, but sometimes I do have read things in German, for example, but I don't know if it works in German.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Because that's really interesting to know then. So it doesn't make your phone sound different, but it makes it. I like the fact that you can change the options for each language,
Yeah.
because if I'm reading English, I want it much faster than if I'm reading German, for instance.
Exactly. Yeah, you can also choose stuff like you may be reading stuff in a few different languages, but you want the numbers and the emojis to stay in a single preferred language. So you can set it up as well.
Oh, wow.
Or you can set it up to work that it's going to read the numbers in the last language that was detected. So you have like a few ways of flexibility there. Yeah.
That's great. I'm a singer, so I sometimes, or also a churchgoer, and I sometimes read things in Latin. Is there a Latin text-to-speech engine?
I think there are a few Latin text-to-speech engines, and in terms of the languages that are supported by multilingual TTS, these are quite a lot of languages. I think it's around 100 languages, and it means that we are able to detect from these languages in quite high accuracy and quality. But then, as I mentioned, it depends on. I mean, you do still need to have a text-to-speech engine in the language that you speak or want to read in. You need to have it installed on your device. So I think I don't. We also get from users, requests for additional languages to add. I think we are currently at the phase that we pretty much added everything that we were requested to. So it's there.
And what if I want, for example, my phone to speak in German, but I haven't installed a TTS yet? Will it recommend some, or will it just say that I have to find TTSs in that language?
So it's a great question. First of all, it will let you know that you don't have a German text-to-speech engine set up on your device yet. And then it depends on the language, because sometimes there are languages that we don't have specific recommendations. If there are specific recommendations, it will let you know that you might want to look for a text-to-speech engine in this language in the Google Play Store. And if we have specific recommendation, we're going to also let you look for Vocalizer, for example, or any other text-to-speech engine that we know that has these languages.
Lovely. Okay. Thanks.
So tell me, Tal, does this thing does it do, like on the fly, for instance? So it's not like an auto language switcher. So let's say I'm reading something in English, and then maybe the author decided to throw in a little bit of Italian, like a line or two in Italian. Would it like read it to me in Italian, or I would have needed to make sure that I have an Italian supported, TTS engine installed?
So you would need to have an Italian supported text-to-speech engine. By the way, a lot of the common languages does have some kind of voice, pretty much for most of the people installed on their device, because most of us has the Google TTS or Samsung TTS installed, and some of us are using Vocalizer, and these engines usually have already voices installed for a lot of languages, and the multilingual TTS knows how to scan all the voices and text-to-speech engines that you have on your device and use whatever exists. So if there is nothing, it wouldn't know how to read it, and then it would, fall back to your default language. But if you have it, it would definitely read it in Italian.
Does it slow down your phone then if it's looking for these other languages all the time when it's reading to you? Or does it, have you done quite a lot of work to make sure that's not too much of a problem? Because I know that using TalkBack, runs down the battery, and I think possibly can slow the phone down sometimes, especially the cheaper end phone. So I'm wondering, has that been a problem at all?
So this was definitely one of the main challenges that we worked on. I'm very glad to say that it doesn't really slow the phone, and there aren't many delays. We do get from time to time new use cases for specific devices or specific versions that experience in certain cases a delay, and then we look at it and we improve accordingly. But definitely that was one of the main things that we needed to work on. And I can say that we also use a certain heuristic to have like a fallback. So if, for example, we run into a situation or a sentence in which the algorithm identifies that detecting the language takes too long, we're going to use a fallback for a default language, and then do the processing in the backend. So in the next time, it will work faster.
Is the app always on the phone, or can some people put it on the memory card, or would that again affect the speed? I'm just thinking of, again, lower cost phones. They often have a memory card slot. So I don't know how large the app is.
So it can work on both. I think that most people, from what we know, are installing it on the internal storage and not on the memory card, but it can work on both. Usually, I mean, as a general rule for Android users, I would say that apps that you are using quite often, and definitely if these are text-to-speech engines and you are using TalkBack or Select-to-Speak or stuff that you are really using in order to operate your system, it would almost always be advised to store them on your internal storage. So this is kind of the best practice, I would say.
Yeah, maybe keep your music and books and stuff on your memory card instead.
Exactly.
I definitely agree with that, because it would make no sense to have a TTS engine on a slower SD card. It wouldn't make
Exactly.
sense at all. Yeah.
definitely.
Well, this has been great, Tal. And if people want to try it, I think you guys do offer some trial. And then after that, if one wants to buy it, how much does it cost? I know that here in the States, it's like, what is it, $4.99? And
Yeah.
is that standard across the globe, or is it different in terms of prices? Is it different in different regions, or is just that same same flat price of $4.99?
So if I remember properly, it's for 99 across the globe. I do think that we did some adjustments for countries that have majority of people with a lower socioeconomic condition, and quite a large audience of blind people, because we do want it to help as much people as we can. And we can, I mean, any user can always, send us emails to our support email, and we can help with whatever is required, even if the trial is not enough or whatever. And as you mentioned, whenever someone downloads it, you can use the app for free for quite a while. There is a certain limit of number of requests, or I would say sentences, that it's going to read for you, and it's in the tens of thousands of sentences. And once this trial is over, you would need to purchase it, but it usually really gives you enough time to understand whether you are really satisfied or not.
Thank you so much. That has been very helpful. And I really appreciate the fact that you guys are looking into that and knowing that there are certain parts of the world that, this amount may be a little bit too high for someone.
Yeah.
And so giving that consideration and adjusting it, I think that makes the whole sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's good that you've done a trial as well, because some apps, they just expect you to buy them.
Exactly.
So thank you for doing that as well.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think in this, specifically in this app, we are trying to really get to as much people as we can, and we are not trying to to make millions out of this app. It's mainly to have to be able and maintain the development and maintenance of this app. So we are doing our best to get to as much people as we can and still maintain a quality app. And I hope we will manage to succeed this way.
Thank you so much, Tal. And so if something happens, you guys update it, or you have some major changes, would you be willing to come back again and chat with us? Because, sometimes things happen and, new things get introduced and all of that. Would you be willing to come back and sit down with blind Android users and chat about these new changes?
Yeah, definitely. I
Great.
would love to.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.